course, the really big news is what's going on in Washington and Obama opening the door now to prosecuting former Bush officials about torture. No, it is fun watching the Republicans trying to defend torture because they insist that what's wrong with the Democrats on this issue is they don't get what it's like in the real world. And to prove it, they cite Jack Bauer, a character from a television show. Miss California says that her answer in a contest opposing gay marriage and favoring opposite marriage is what cost her her crown. Well, let's see. She's extremely Christian, she's kind of hot, and she's dumb. Looks like the Republicans have a new vice presidential candidate. All right, you sound like a good group. We got a great show. We got Howard Dean, as I mentioned. He's been the governor of Vermont, the presidential candidate, the chairman of the Democratic National Committee. You all know Howard Dean is right here.
Some bad stuff went on in the last 8 years. We had a government that was probably the least respectful of the Constitution of any government in my lifetime. I think it's important for the American people to know what went on. And, you know, whether you prosecute or not or how you do that, that's a tough one. But I don't think there's any question about releasing the memos. And I think this stuff that Cheney and people like that are saying this is bad for security.
But honestly, if you were president now, would you be saying that? I mean,
yeah,
his view is that I can't get anything done if we're only looking backward and we cite
that's legitimate. But I think to know what the truth is matters.
Well, you also have a practical...
First of all, there's no evidence that any of the waterboarding worked. If you have to waterboard somebody 249 times, that means the first 248 times didn't work. I mean, so, I mean, you know, as far, now, I'm obviously not an expert on torture, except when I was practicing medicine.
What do you mean? But you were a good doctor.
I was.
You were a Vermont doctor.
I was.
You know, you were the doctor that made house calls, right?
I did. We did make house calls.
Of course, there's not many houses in Vermont.
Here's the biggest problem with torture. You know, this is an extraordinary country, and it's an extraordinary country because we have a high set of principles. We don't always live up to them, but we do our best, or we should do our best. If you start behaving the way all the people who we think that we're going to try to improve the situation of, then you can't do it. Then there's no rationale for America if we torture. He's done, I think, one really good thing and made huge progress in doing that's restoring America's good name in the rest of the world.
It turned out to be so easy.
Well, I mean, we're not done yet. You know, now we've got to...
I know, but all it really amounted to was not being a dick like Bush. All it amounted to was just talking to people. It was like, okay, you know what? We'll let you have cell phone talk with people, and they said, okay, we'll release some political prisoners. And, well, like in 2 seconds, the whole thing sort of went down from that macho bullshit level of, ooh.
By not having the mentality of a 15-year-old boy.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to...
He's done a lot of things. It's really true,
That's what I'm trying to say.
What's going to cause the assault weapon ban to come back, which I predict it will, probably sometime during Obama's first term, is what's going on in Mexico. Because that's destabilizing for national security. It's terrible when some person shoots 8 innocent people on a college campus or 30. That's awful. Well, but what's going on in Mexico, where we're exporting literally hundreds and thousands of AK-47s and other guns to huge gangs, that's going to come back and bite us in the butt in the United States of America. That is what's going to force something to be done about assault weapons. And most members of the NRA that I know don't think you need an assault rifle to kill a deer.
Yeah, the real NRA nut says, if the government can take our guns, then after that they can come and take our freedoms. But what happened with the Patriot Act was the government said, no, 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 keep the guns, just give us the freedoms. And they said, we get to keep the guns. If you just wrap the request in a flag, they'll line up to surrender the freedoms. They just really want the guns so they can protect guns.
I'm a huge Obama fan. I think it's such an unbelievably great thing to have a president who's competent and not insane. That I feel great. But he's wrong about this. That if you're going to be a nation of laws, you have to enforce the law even when it's inconvenient.